one of the problems that I have with like automated assessment stuff and like only using that is sometimes you have happy accidents in code where it's like, oh, this works. I don't know why it works, but it works and cool. So when it gets like automatically graded, it's like, oh, they understand conditionals or variables. And it's like, well, maybe not. So I like the multi-perspectival approach that you're recommending. And for people who aren't familiar with it, so the formative stuff like in the process, assessment and kind of understanding, then the summative is typically towards the end, sometimes with a pretest, and then ipsative is more of like a reflection on what do you know now, what did you learn through this project, how does that compare to your prior understandings? So like those like different approaches to assessment, I totally agree with. What would you recommend for educators in terms of when either selecting or designing their own assessment that they would use with the kids they're working with?
I feel for the way that we are proceeding in CS, I think the summative assessment is, of course, great, but it's great for reflection on the curriculum, reflection on what might change from cohort to cohort, because it happens too late in the process for you to for it to impact learning for that cohort of students. So it's great as a reflective tool, but for your ongoing teaching and your ongoing district curriculum and teacher PD, etc. And you see things in the aggregate in the summative assessment for the most part. You sort of see, oh, most students, were able to get a handle on this kind of topic or concept, but not so much on this. So how might I teach this better? For formative assessment, I think that it's a mindset. You have to sort of constantly tell yourself, I need feedback from students on what they are learning. And this can be done in so many different ways. It can be informal questions as you're having a whole class discussion. It can be their expressions as they, when you ask something and
Yeah.
blank faces. But I think most teachers, this is not something new to teachers. Teachers have been doing this all the time. So formative assessment can be more informal. Like I said, the expressions, what students are responding, what to when you ask them a question as they're coding and whatnot. And it can be a little more formal too, in the form of exit tickets on a daily basis or every other day, a couple of review. And those exit tickets, you can review the next morning. If they're quick to sort of give you feedback, you can ask a couple of quick questions. They could be multiple choice. They could be, short, open-ended. So something that you can sort of look at and get a sense for very quickly and then review the next day, because you want to be able to tailor your learning. Formative assessments give students a sense for what the learning goals are. And that is important, even in project-based learning. It's easy for students to not know what it is that I'm trying to learn at the end of this. And giving those formative assessments sort of give them a sense, this is what I'm supposed to be understanding and learning. And no, I haven't got this. So I need to understand this better so that I can answer this kind of question or whatever. It's also normative, right? Assessment is a normative enterprise. You measure what you treasure, as they say, or what you value. And so if you also value creativity, you also value collaboration, you value these, what we might call socio-emotional, or, how is this connecting to your interests? So you want to be probing all of that, because when you probe students with those kinds of questions, they understand what it is that they need to be learning, whether it's communication, whether it's the vocabulary, whether it's collaboration, whether it's the actual concepts of programming, whether it's about, their interests being valued, So I think all of that comes through not just the learning goals, but through measurement as well.
This excerpt of the CSK8 podcast is from episode number 41, which is titled Discussing Computer Science in K-12 with Shuchi Grover. You can listen to this full episode, as well as hundreds more, by simply searching for the CSK8 podcast or by going to jaredoleary.com.